Hello, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm here to talk about all of the books that I read in February. I don't really have much of a preamble today, so I guess let's just get into it. The first book that I read was Adrift in Currents, Clean and Clear by Shauna Maguire, and this is book 10 in the Wayward Children series, one of my favorite adult fantasy novella series. The Wayward Children series is a series about wayward children, so children who step through magical doorways and find magical places, inevitably end up back in the real world. So in this one, we're following Nadia, who I think we've seen before in the series, but to be honest, I really think I'm due for a reread soon because these are starting to get like hazier and hazier. But Nadia is a little Russian girl who was born without an arm, and she is given up for adoption and eventually adopted by like a nice American couple and taken to the States. And so half of the novella is about that experience, her growing up in Russia, getting adopted, adjusting to life in America. And then half of the novella is her stumbling through her door and discovering this underwater world where there are sea turtles and talking foxes and very nice communities of people. I had really mixed feelings about this one. Typically, I love these novellas, like the ones where we're just following one character, we're getting a little bit of a prequel to someone that we've met, or like a one-off story type thing. This one really left me wanting. By the end, I was really feeling like the limitations of the novella format, as in it just sort of being so short, but I was also starting to feel the limitations of like this formula that Shauna Maguire has created in terms of like these stories always end with the children like somehow having to return home, and that being very heartbreaking and sad because they had found this place that like belonged to them and welcomed them, and then they have to get thrust back into the real world. I used to love that they had that kind of bittersweet feel to them, but I don't know, this one just felt like a little bit too sad in particular. First of all, I actually was enjoying the real life stuff more than the fantasy stuff in this one. I was like interested in Nadia and her new family. She had like interesting dynamics with her parents. Her adoptive father seemed to be very kind and gentle with her, and he was like really trying to connect with her, and her adopted mother was kind of shrill and controlling, was putting a lot of emphasis on like fixing Nadia, like specifically fixing her arm and things like that. And I actually was more invested in that story than when she eventually went to the magical place. And I think part of the issue, especially after the book was over, was just I felt like we didn't really get enough time in the underwater magical world. Like that part went by really quickly, and it felt like, I don't know, this is the first time where I felt like the magical world was just something we had to like get through in order to get to the end where Nadia is like kicked out and has to go back to the real world. Like I just felt like we rushed through the whole like fantasy part of the story, which I've never really felt before. So I don't know, I gave this one a 3-star. There is something about these books that I love and I always will, and that will keep me coming back to them. But I don't know, this one really left me wanting. So yeah, Adrift in Currents, Clean and Clear was just okay. All right, so next up I read A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, and this is a thriller, and I picked it up in February because it was very wintry and cold. In this we are following Theodora Scott, who goes by Theo, and Theo is engaged to this uber rich, like really rich guy named Connor Dalton, and he is a member of a very, again, rich, powerful, influential family. And because they're engaged, Connor insists that she must accompany him to like their annual family vacation where they go to these like cabins in the woods and they ski and they cook and they just have family time. Theodora is of course very nervous about meeting them and impressing them because they're so rich and influential, and she's kind of a nobody. The thing that you have to know about Theo is that she was adopted and that she has no memories of her life before the age of 4. Like she has 0 memories of her early life before the adoption. When she and Connor get to this place with these cabins, Theo starts having some weird dreams. She starts having memories resurface. The place starts to feel a little bit familiar to her. and she can't quite put her finger on why until she finds a photograph of herself as a child on the premises, and she's like, what is this doing here? It's all very mysterious, it's all very weird and concerning, and she doesn't know if she's in danger. It's just, you know, it's pretty typical thriller fare. I definitely really enjoyed it as I was reading it. Like the thrillery parts really hooked me, and I cared about Theo. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted the answer to the mystery. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It does the thing where there are maybe one too many twists at the end. It didn't totally ruin the reading experience, but you know, it was just kind of like, this is unnecessary. We don't need quite so many twists. I would say that it's not anything super memorable or that I think is going to leave like a lasting impact on me or anything, but it was definitely enjoyable and entertaining. So yeah, A Killing Cold, 4 stars. Next up, I read 3 very popular rom-coms for a reading vlog for Valentine's Day. So I finally picked up The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. And this is about Olive, a 3-year PhD student who is in a little bit of a pickle. She was kind of casually dating this guy. She wasn't super into him, so things kind of fizzled out between the two of them. But when he met Olive's best friend, they really hit it off and they had a lot of chemistry, and her best friend won't stop talking about him. However, her best friend is feeling really weird about actually dating him because he's like kind of Olive's ex, you know, it's like a super weird situation. Olive has the brilliant idea to lie to her best friend and say that she's in fact in a brand new relationship and she's doing really well, and that, you know, no, you should totally go out with that guy, like it's over between me and him, right? On a night when she is supposed to be on a date with some brand new guy that she's like totally into, her best friend shows up and Olive decides to just kiss whatever random dude is closest to her. And wouldn't you know that the random dude that she kisses is of course not only a professor, but a professor who's known to be kind of a well-known asshole. This, of course, starts a flurry of rumors around the school, and the two of them decide that instead of combating the rumors, they're just gonna fake date. You know what? I absolutely loved this book. I had such a good time with this. I know, I can't believe it either. I was not expecting to at all. In fact, of the books that I picked out for that reading vlog, this is the one that I figured I would like the least. And it surprised the hell out of me. It just really surprised the hell out of me. First of all, this just really got me with the humor. Like, I was laughing out loud. I was giggling. I really enjoyed how like awkward and silly Olive is. I really loved the romance. Like, I was totally rooting for these two, and I just had the best time reading this. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's a good book, okay? I'm not going to stand on a soapbox and say that, but I am going to stand on a soapbox and say that I personally loved it and gave it 5 stars. I was just so obsessed with it as I was reading it, and I love that feeling of like when you just like cannot put a book down. Like, you have to go do things, like you have to get up and cook dinner or take a shower or whatever it is, and you're just like, I don't want to leave this book. Like, don't make me get up and do anything. I just want to sit here and read. Any book that can make me feel that way typically gets a 5 star, and this made me feel that way. I wanted to read this like every possible second I could. I don't know, if I'm actively choosing to read a book over like scrolling on my phone, like I would rather be reading the book than scrolling on my phone, that's a 5 star. In this day and age, that's a 5 star. Oh, the other thing that I talked a lot about in that vlog was the demisexual representation in this, which was really fun and exciting to see because I identify as demisexual also. And so like some of that inner monologue that Olive has about relationships and her struggle with like sexual attraction and things like that, I just really like loved and appreciated. So yeah, I guess I will definitely be reading more Ali Hazelwood. I could not have been more surprised by this, so yeah. The second book that I read for that vlog was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and this one was a bit of a disappointment. So it's about the son of the first female president and the youngest prince of England, who after a very short and silly rivalry fall in love with each other. Or I guess I should say they fall in lust with each other and then they fall in love with each other. That was one of the main issues that I personally had with the book. Now that's just like a personal preference. I like a lot of yearning, I like a lot of buildup and tension, and I wanted a lot more buildup and tension than what we got in here. The characters get together very quickly. Like, the whole rivals thing does not last very long at all. I didn't totally love the writing style either. I felt like, especially the character dialogue, was really interchangeable with like most of the side characters. I just really did not connect with any of these characters the way that I wanted to. Like, I wanted to love them. I wanted to be laughing. I wanted to be giggling. I wanted to be really invested in the romance, and I just felt flat and meh the entire time I was reading it. I never felt like the two main characters like had all that much chemistry. I talked about it more in the vlog, but basically I remember feeling like there just was not enough character development, there was not enough relationship development, actual tangible moments that the two of them shared that like made me feel like, ah yes, these two are falling in love with each other. I don't know. Red, White, and Royal Blue, I gave this 2.5. It was readable, but not really an enjoyable experience for me. And then the last book that I read for that vlog was Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I'm happy to say that I did really enjoy this one. So in this one, we're following January Andrews, who is a romance writer. Her life basically sort of goes to shit overnight. Her father very suddenly passes away, which is very sad. But even worse, at the funeral, January discovers that her father was leading a double life, perhaps for her whole childhood. She discovers that he had another house that she didn't know about, and that he had a mistress that she didn't know about. And that mistress ends up going to the funeral and handing January a letter and a key to a house and is like, here, your father wanted you to have this. And so it raises all of these questions about January's childhood, about her relationship with her father. It has ruined the relationship that she had with her mother because her mother will not talk about this. And so January has kind of lost that relationship that she had with her. She gets dumped by her boyfriend because her emotions are too big, and she's having a really hard time writing the last book in her contract. Yeah, she decides to go live in this beach house that her father left to her. Her plan is to hunker down and write her book and clean out the house and sell off the furniture and eventually sell off the house. And wouldn't you know that, of course, her college rival, who is also a published author, is living next door. And he is experiencing a level of writer's block as well. And so the two of them decide that they are going to like switch genres. So he is going to write a happily ever after, and she is going to write like a serious literary fiction. I was expecting this to be fluffier than it was. I think I was taken by surprise with like the somber tone and the heavy themes, but at the same time I really appreciated them. I appreciated that the story felt grounded and realistic, and I loved that our two main characters were like comfort for each other in like really difficult times. I just felt like there was a good balance of like humor and heavier, more realistic themes, but there was also legitimately so much good tension and romance between the two main characters. Something that I didn't mention in the vlog but should have was that I felt like Emily Henry did such a good job of creating tension out of like really small intimate moments. The bumping of knees underneath the table, or, you know, holding hands for the first time, or just like, I don't know, being a little bit too close to that person that you're finding really attractive. Just like those small moments that like make your heart race when you're falling in love with someone. I thought she did that really well. I just really liked and appreciated the writing in this. I liked the pacing, I liked the characters. It was just a really good, well-rounded book that I enjoyed very much. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really loved it, and I will definitely be reading more Emily Henry in the future as well. Next, I read Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, and this is my second Grady Hendrix. My first was My Best Friend's Exorcism, which I read several years ago, so it's been a while. This was just getting so much hype and praise that I couldn't ignore it. I really wanted to read it, and this is set in the early 70s, and we are following a young 15-year-old girl who gets pregnant. Because she is pregnant, she gets shipped off to this home where she is expected to live out the rest of her pregnancy, deliver the baby, give the baby up for adoption, and then go back to her life as if nothing ever happened. Of course, there at the home, she meets like an array of different kinds of girls that are there for the exact same thing. All of the girls staying at this home really resent the fact that they have no agency over their lives. They get no say in what they eat. They get no say in how they spend their time. Absolutely everything that they do is very closely monitored and controlled by the adults who run this home. And one day there is a traveling library that comes through, and a librarian gives the girls a book about witchcraft. They, of course, start dabbling in witchcraft, as a result getting some of their agency back, but at the same time there is a cost. I absolutely loved this. Before I forget, I want to say that I listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook is fantastic. Like, actually fantastic, 100% the way to go. I rated this 4.75 stars. Really close to a 5-star. And the only reason it wasn't quite a 5-star is because, honestly, this book didn't even really need the witchcraft. And I'm saying that as somebody who like really loves witchcraft and books about witches. All of the historical elements of this were horrifying enough. The idea of being 15 and pregnant, terrifying. The idea of being 15 and pregnant in the 70s, terrifying. The fact that our characters are so young, the fact that they have no agency, they have no say, they are being told what to do, they are being controlled, they have no choice in this. Like, they really have no choice in this whatsoever. They are manipulated, they are lied to, they are shunned, they are looked down upon, they are talked down to. So like, all of that on top of like the horror of being pregnant and like growing another living thing inside of your body, and like the body horror that comes from pregnancy and childbirth, the horrors of how some of these girls got pregnant in the first place. I don't know. I was honestly so much more invested in just like the more grounded, realistic, historical fiction elements of the story than the witchcraft. It was fine, and I liked it more once the story kind of came to a head, like in the finale. I could see those pieces coming together. I appreciated a little bit more what Grady Hendrix was doing and like what he was going for. But I don't know, as I was reading and the witches would come up, I was kind of like, I feel like we don't need this. Like, I really don't feel like we need this plotline at all for this to be scary. In general, like as a whole, I loved it. Like, I loved it. I loved our main character, Fern. I found her journey so harrowing, and I loved all of the side characters, like all of the girls. I love them so much. It has really good, like, horror creep, like the slow like build up and tension, things being ominous or disturbing. The epilogue made me tear up like crazy. It was just very good. It was a very good book. I really liked it. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, 4.5, highly recommend. And then the last book I read for the month of February was Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambao. I really wish that I had liked this more. In this, we are following Hana Ishikawa, who has just inherited her father's magical pawn shop. And in this pawn shop, people can come in and pawn off their regrets and memories, and in return they are kind of relieved of the burden of those things. When Hana wakes up on like her very first day to start her new job as like the head of the pawn shop, she finds that the pawn shop has been ransacked, a choice has been stolen, and her father is missing. On that day, a random guy from Tokyo stumbles into the pawn shop and sees all of the catastrophe and decides to help Hana on her journey. They bounce around to all sorts of different magical places. They travel through dreams and they fold time, and there's just all sorts of like whimsical magical things. I really so very badly wanted this to be like at least a 4-star. I wanted to be swept up in the whimsy. I wanted to like really enjoy these beautiful, magical, whimsical places we were going. There are definitely some environments that I did really enjoy, like there's a beautiful like boat ride that we go on. There's a place that we visit that literally gave me chills. There's like a train station that they go to where people are just like waiting for their train that may or may never arrive, and people live their whole lives just like waiting for these trains, and people will like get married and have kids, and then their train comes through and they have to get on their train. I don't know, there was something about that metaphor that just, ooh, even now I'm like getting chills. And so there was stuff in here that I thought was good and that I enjoyed. However, I did have some problems. Our main character Hana and her companion Kishin are adults, but they're written like teenagers. Like their dialogue is very clunky and they read really young. There is insta-love in here that I didn't totally appreciate. All of the different environments that we explored felt really disjointed. It felt like we never really got to spend very much time in any particular place and grow to love it or like fully explore it. Some parts of the novel were so disjointed and out of nowhere that I would get confused. Like I would get confused about what was happening or where we were. I don't know. Overall, it was just okay. I gave it 3 stars because there were things I liked about it. I mean, I have a soft spot for whimsy. I think in a lot of ways this was trying really hard to feel like a Studio Ghibli film. And in some ways it does, you know, like it pulls that off, sort of. And so there were things about it that I liked and things about it that I really wanted to like. But yeah, there were just some things that were really holding it back from being anything higher than a 3-star. I'm fairly disappointed with it since it is such a beautiful book and this edition is gorgeous, and I really wanted to love it and I didn't. I would definitely still check it out if you're interested. I would say that you really need to have a pretty high tolerance for whimsy. Like if you don't like Alice in Wonderland and things that are very kind of like fever dream-y, this probably won't be for you. But if you love whimsy, you know, give it a try. You might like it more than I did. All right, well, that is it for my February wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching. Please tell me what your favorite book was in February. I would love to know. Even though I gave The Love Hypothesis 5 stars, I still think that my personal favorite was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. If you just want to say hi and let me know that you were here, leave me some kind of like witchy emoji. If you were interested in watching that rom-com vlog, I will leave that here, and if you want to see what I'm reading in March, I will leave that here. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!